cold wind is blowing outside as we greet the travelers from their long, long ride with open arms and hearts full of cheer. Once again, it's Christmas time of year.
Hello and welcome to SCV-Arts and Entertainment. I'm Gloria Locke.
And I'm Bob Locke. We have a great show today.
We are super excited to have T. Dan Hofstedt as our special guest. T. Dan is one of the animators of Simba in the #1 animation classic of all time, Disney's The Lion King. As one of the best animators of our generation, he's known for his animation in Disney's Mulan, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Princess and the Frog, Tarzan, Hercules, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and An American Tail, among others.
T. Dan is also an established singer-songwriter. So let's open today's show with an original Christmas song by T. Dan Hofstedt.
Caravans of crowds streaming back to their hometown, the exiles returning by royal decree. The desert winds frozen and the rooms are all taken in the humble inn run by my father and me. A man and his wife who was heavy with child knocked on our door seeking refuge to stay. My father refused them, but as they turned to go, I offered them the stable and a clean bale of hay. What wonders appeared when the new star came shining, of angels and shepherds and kings from afar. And I, but a young man, did see the Lord coming, and found him a bed underneath the new star. I held my breath until I heard his first cry, breaking the silence of this holy night. I fell to my knees with the shepherds and the wise men as he bathed our souls with his radiant light. I ran to my father to tell him the good news, but he wouldn't listen. He was blinded by pride, for he was intent on evicting the strangers. He said, "This is a man's job, boy, you wait inside." I fell on my bed, full of tears and confusion, and called out to heaven, saying, "God help him, please." I ran to the stable and stopped in the doorway, and there was my father down on his knees. What wonders appeared when the new star came shining, of angels and shepherds and kings from afar. An old and a young man did see the Lord come in. Father and son came to worship the one who was born underneath the new star. A father and son came to worship the one who was born underneath the new star.
Ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome T. Dan Hofstedt. Wow, T. Dan, that was great, great music. Welcome to our show.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have just an amazing career as an animator. When we look at all those titles, we just feel like we're in the Animators Hall of Fame. How did it all begin for you? Did you always want to be an animator?
Well, I really did. Looking back all the way to about the 3rd grade, my dad did caricatures at Disneyland when I was a kid, and so I guess I kind of grew up at Disneyland, and used to buy these little flip books or little tiny thing. You could see Donald Duck throwing a tantrum, or Mickey Mouse slaying a giant or whatever. You know, there's cute little pencil tests that they would put on these. You can buy them for like 50 cents back then. And I thought, oh, I want to do this. And I would do the same thing in the margins of my books and entertain my classmates with little sketches. And, you know, and I remember thinking back then, after watching the Walt Disney Wonderful World of Color, and you would see he'd go around to the different animators and say, hey, what you working on? And they'd be working on the Jungle Book, and they'd see them flip the pages, and, oh, I want to do that. So it was in my mind and heart at an early age to do that.
I understand your dad had an influence, kind of passing down a legacy in caricature. How did that?
Oh, absolutely. My dad kind of developed a reputation as the fastest pen alive. He would do these 1-minute sketches, the profile, big head, small bodies for the tourists at Disneyland. And then later I learned that and put myself through school. By the age of 14, I was making money doing caricatures. The biggest thing my dad taught me was, he said, when in doubt, defer to reality. But my dad really tried hard to make that person look like the person. What was special about that person? And that served me well in animation, where the Disney style taught you how to observe life and then distill that down to a simple statement that is super clear to the audience.
Did you progress and go into CalArts and continue your studies there?
Yes, I arrived at CalArts in 1981, and we moved to the Santa Clarita Valley the next year. The first year I lived in Buena Park. It was close to my wife's job at the time. And then we had our first child in 82. And then she came up and visited one of her days off and looked around, and she said, why aren't we living here? This, you know, so we moved into an apartment, and then later bought a house.
Excellent. CalArts, did that prepare you to get a job? Now I'm trying to transition. How did you get into Disney?
Getting into CalArts was kind of the gateway to that in some respects. That doesn't mean that getting into CalArts is necessarily a guarantee that you'll get into Disney, because many of those students that I went to school with ended up at different studios, you know, or maybe even didn't get into animation altogether. They might have gone into live action. But getting there at that time, we were exposed to some of the old-time Disney guys who had retired, and they were passing on some of the secrets, I guess you'd say. But there was also camaraderie among the students, that we were wanting to kind of recapture the things that we grew up on, like Pinocchio and Lady and the Tramp and all those classics that we just loved. We thought, oh, we want to do that too. And at the time, the output of animation had kind of gone down a little bit. They weren't doing it as much or even as well, and I think they'd be the first to kind of admit that. So the old timers were kind of retiring and dying off, and there was a gap. And so it was a great time to be part of that as the wave started to go upwards again. And I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. But I learned a lot, and my colleagues also helped spur each other on, so we all kind of progressed together.
This was your first bronze?
This is my first bronze. I did this not too long ago, just a couple years back. This is young Simba, and I took a sculpture class when I was still at Disney, working on Planes and Planes 2 a couple years back. And I decided to do a sculpture of Simba. I animated this shot of Simba where he goes, yeah, but I pulled it off. And he's kind of bragging to Nala. And this is just before they tumbled into the elephant graveyard. And so I did this in wax, actually. I kind of sculpted it in a wax, old school kind of method. And then they took that wax and made a bronze out of it.
And I understand you have a team. You kind of work on it together.
Exactly. Well, as an animator on Lion King, the way that we did it, we have a lead animator who was sort of in charge of the character. And then depending on how much that character would be in the film, they'd assign more animators to help finish all the footage, because one person really couldn't do it all unless that character wasn't on film too much. But since Simba was a main character, one guy over the course of a year couldn't do it all himself, so you have to spread it out. So there's
Wait, stop right there. It takes a whole year. I just want to bring that out. It takes a whole year.
It could. It could even take more. I mean,
And-
from the concept to writing to design to all of that, sometimes it takes 3, 5, 7 or more years because there's many changes. But once it hits production, they're ready for animation, then most of that other stuff is figured out, and now we can spend the time animating. That usually takes, a year, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on the complexities. So there was about 4 or 5 of us that helped Mark Henn, who's also a Santa Clarita resident. He was the lead animator on Simba, so I got several sections of Simba's performances. It was kind of like being an understudy for, in a play where, usually the main guy, he'll get juicy parts, but then he has to let go of other parts to give to his team, and it's like, okay, I'm Simba today, So I was very fortunate to have some nice moments of Simba, and that was one of them. Yeah.
And you also create music where, Bob?
Yeah, we met T. Dan at our songwriters night a few months ago at the Summerfest at Rivendell, and he did some sketches that evening, and I was like, hey, there's my foot. This guy got the foot.
So we're going to come back with a little bit more after we hear a great song.
The cold wind is blowing outside as we greet the travelers from their long, long ride with open arms and hearts full of cheer. Once again, it's Christmas time of year. The lights are hung around the tree as children laugh and smile on grandfather's knee. The fire is warm and burning oh so bright, getting all prepared for Christmas night. Silent night in the first Noel, deck the halls and jingle bells, caroling familiar tunes, sharing all the smiles. Rudolph with his bright red nose, Frosty made of winter snow, dreaming a white Christmas all the while. Long distance calls with friends from far away, wishing one and all the most joyous of days. We gather round the table with a prayer, thankful for the love that we all share. Stockings filled and ribbons torn, bright and early Christmas morn, children trying out their toys. Santa really came. Mom and Dad, they reminisce under mistletoe, a special kiss, giving thanks to God in Jesus' name. The cold wind is blowing outside as we send off the travelers on their long, long ride with a happy new year wish and a tear, looking forward to Christmas time of year.
Ooh, that's awesome.
What a great Christmas song, Dan. And look at this. We have a nice CD, Christmas Time of Year, from T. Dan Hofstedt. And I guess you can go online and buy these if you want some good Christmas music for the season.
They're on CD Baby and iTunes and Amazon.
Okay.
So how did music and art go together for you? Now you're also a music creator. This is fabulous.
Well, I would say my career has been animation, but along the way, I've always played music. I grew up in a musical family and wrote songs since I was a young teenager, and looking back, I can say that music has sort of become my personal art, whereas my animation career was teaming up with other artists to create a product.
So what do you do now? You have a plan for this.
Well, my plan is to just keep playing and play with like-minded people who like playing and want to get better at what they do, and find places to perform where people can enjoy it, hopefully. And I think there is a lofty goal that I've always had, and that is if someone like Brad Paisley or someone famous that actually wants a song could hear my song and go, I really want that for my next Christmas album, I would, of course, that's a goal that I'm sure a million other people have as well. But I feel that's something still to shoot for. That if you can connect with someone who likes what you do, they say, hey, I know someone who might really want to put that on their record. And so that's still part of my vision, I suppose.
Well, you've reached so many plateaus already in your life, and you're an inspiration to many, and you've made millions around the world smile. We have a special guest who's looking up to you today, and that would be an art student, Jessica Ross.
Hello, Jessica.
Very nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
So what I want to know the most is, did you have any really hard struggles when it came to your road to animation?
Yes, the road to animation is a struggle because it's a lot of hard work. You can have talent to start with, but if you don't develop that talent through practice and observation of life and really noticing what it is about the way things move, the way things are built, learning figure drawing animals from life, those things don't really come naturally. You have to do it a lot to get better. And there's a lot of times where you do a drawing and you think, man, I'm no good, and you throw the drawing away. And then finally, after 100 drawings, you go, hey, that's not bad. That 99 that you threw away were sort of a stepping stone to get to the one good one that you finally made. So it is a struggle, and it's kind of like, oh, no, that's not right. And you are self-critical. You trying to measure up to those other artists that you look up to. But it is worth the journey because it just helps you get better, and it helps you to realize your dream if you just keep at it.
Do you have a favorite piece or a favorite character that you worked on?
I think that's hard to pick, but the first one that pops in my head, and not only because the sculpture is right in front of me, but I would have to say the Emperor, because he was like the most important character that I was in charge of. I was the lead animator on the Emperor character, and I've been the lead animator on other minor characters like Mr. Arrow, and then Gazim the Humble Thief in Aladdin, and then a couple of sailors in Pocahontas. So I always had kind of background characters, which I put as much heart and soul as I could to make them come alive. But the Emperor had a lot of important moments throughout the film that I really wanted to rise to the occasion to make those acting moments believable and full of heart and were reflective of what the Emperor's character needed to be for that moment.
And with technology nowadays, animation has changed a lot. Do you prefer the way it was before, or do you like it better now?
Well, I think there's good about both. I've worked in both. I grew up in the hand-drawn 2D style, and I worked on 3D style as well since the end of Treasure Planet, so that's been 2002. I've been in digital 3D animation for the last 10 or 11 years. And I'm supervising the animation on some Lego stories for Warner Brothers right now, and they're really fun. And they're just like little digital puppets in the computer that you can move around, and they're really, really fun and cute, and kids love them, and the stories are cute. And so I like it for certain things, but there is something about drawing, taking a blank piece of paper and a graphite or a pen and just making something out of nothing, going from the blank to the something, and there's there's something satisfying about that tactile feeling of actually pushing things around and coming up with something that's done by hand is pretty special.
And we have one last question, don't we?
We do. I heard you mention you do caricatures. Would you be able to draw me?
I'll give it a try. I'll do my best.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get Jessica by the wonderful T. Dan Hofstedt.
You're a VIP at SCV-Arts, where art and music come together.
It's a Wild West Christmas back home on the range, and all through the night, such a beautiful sight. Some things never change, like Santa Claus riding his trail in the sky. You can still hear him call, Merry Christmas to all, Woka-yippee-yi-yi. We sing round the firelight the songs of his birth, with goodwill to all men and sweet peace on earth. A whole forest of pine trees decorated with snow, and a million.
Ooh, look at that. Amazing. Wow. Well, thank you so much. Look at that. That is Jessica. Thank you so much, T. Dan.
Thank you.
What a privilege to meet you and just to see you at work and to hear about everything. You've made millions around the world smile with your art and your music. And thank you for watching. From all of us at SCV-Arts and Entertainment, happy holidays.
You can still hear him call, Merry Christmas to all, Woka-yippee-yi-yi. We hook up that old sleigh and we ride into town. Hear them jingle bells ringing, spreading joy all around, heading back to the ranch house. This is where I belong, and the wind through the canyons join in the song. Oh, it's a Wild West Christmas back home on the range, and all through the night, such a beautiful sight. Some things never change, like Santa Claus riding his trail in the sky. You can still hear him call, Merry Christmas to all, Woka-yippee-yi-yi. You can still hear him call, Merry Christmas to all, Woka-yippee-yi-yi.